Good evening and welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. I am back in July for part two of what I let you know is going to be an entire month on capacity. Last week, we talked about what capacity is, and we talked very briefly about what it's not. Today, we're going to talk about how you understand what your capacity is once you've done your evaluation and how you decide where your capacity needs to increase. Now, I will simply say that when it comes to understanding your capacity, it can be very situational. It can be. There can be circumstances where you feel as though you're overwhelmed, you're burning out, you're emotionally overwrought, but you're still producing. And you think, right, that because you're producing in an area, that is a measure of your capacity in that area. And I want to encourage you to stay with me tonight because we're going to talk about how to understand the analysis that we discussed and the framework that was given last week. So last week we talked about what capacity is, right? We talked about why it is so important to understand what your capacity is, right? Because capacity isn't just about time management. It's not just about the energy that you have to do things. It's about the abilities that God has given you to steward the talents and the assignments that He's given you. And that's why it's so important. Capacity is your capacity to carry, to sustain, and to multiply the assignments, the responsibility, the talent, the influence, and the platform that God has given and will give each of you without collapsing. So last week we talked about physical capacity, we talked about emotional, mental, spiritual, and relational capacity, and we talked about how to evaluate it. If you were not here last week, if you did not have a chance to do that, and if you are curious or just want to understand a little bit more about what your capacity is and how to assess it, I recommend that you go back and watch last week. This week we're talking about what to do with it. Once you have these numbers written down, I feel like my relational capacity right now is a 3. Why? Because I'm fighting with my husband and all of my friends are on his side. So it's just me. That's not a real assessment, guys. Use the framework. But when you look at the capacity levels that you believe you have, this week we're going to talk about how to focus, how to drill down, and how to truly understand where you need additional capacity. And so tonight's going to be a good night. I encourage you, if you don't have um, a journal or a notepad, grab a piece of paper, grab some notes, and let's get started on the concept of capacity because it is super, super, super important that we understand what the point is and what to do with it. Why does it matter? We talked about it, but what are we going to do with it? And so let me see. My computer is doing the most today. Capacity is about what you should be doing, not what you could be doing. For many people, they look at capacity as, oh, I should start, get that LLC, right? Let's start with the LLC mafia. I don't know if that's still a thing, but it was a very big thing for years. Let's get that LLC. Let's write a book. Let's start a side hustle. Let's travel to 12 countries before I turn 50 or 40 or whatever. Should versus could is a very important reason to evaluate your capacity because your capacity is important as it relates to your assignment. And you guys know that I am unapologetically a God girl. I did not give my disclaimer today because I wanted to jump right into it, but I believe that the gifts that we're given, the talents we have, the life that we lead is for a purpose. And the word of God says that God created good works for us to walk in before time. And many of us are not walking in our assignments. We're not walking in our purpose. We're not producing the fruit that we would like to see because we don't have the capacity. So the framework to evaluate where you came out, to assess your physical capacity, your emotional capacity, your mental capacity, and your spiritual capacity are important. When you rated yourself from 1 to 10 in each of those areas, you were acknowledging truth, I hope, because this isn't a graded assignment. I don't get to see it. You don't have to share it with anybody. The truth of where you are, the truth of how you're feeling, and the truth of the way that you feel that you are showing up. This is a measure of the level of talent, leadership, influence, platform, accountability, responsibility, the ability that you have to serve others and to be successful in that is all contained in these little measures of capacity. And if you guys have been following me for any period of time, you know that I always measure health as mental, spiritual, emotional. I even sometimes throw financial in there, because it's not just our physical health that matters. Just like for capacity, it's not just the mental capacity. Very, very smart people burn out. Very, very intelligent people with a lot of financial resources, time on their hands, do not do anything productive with their lives. And the reason is because they have not evaluated what they should be doing, only what they can do. So the first step is, and we're going to talk tonight about, 5 steps to evaluate your capacity and where you are. One is, the first thing that you need to understand is you have to discern your assignment, not just your capacity, not just what you want to do. Everybody wants to be a millionaire. Everyone wants to live in, a big house and drive a nice car and have 6 or 7 figure incomes going. Everybody wants certain things. But when it comes to capacity, many people are chasing their wants through their ability, and they're not chasing their assignment through purpose. Okay. I'm going to leave that there because I think that is something to really think about. The Bible says, and I think this is Paul, he says, everything is lawful, but not everything is edifying. What that really means is you could do anything you want, but not everything is going to be beneficial for you. Not everything is going to take you where it is that you need to go. So you could have the ability to start that business, to write a book, to, work 2 full-time jobs so that you can buy what you want. You could have the ability, right, to take on a leadership role at church, to get a promotion, to whatever it is, run for office, whatever it is you want to do. But what is your assignment right now? What is your assignment right now? What has God placed in your hands right now? It's funny because I say that all the time. What has God put in your hands? God says that in the Bible. He said it to Moses. What's in your hand? Talking about his staff. What did God give me? What are my responsibilities in this season? And am I stewarding them well? If you're out here starting a 3rd business, running for office, and writing a book, working 20 hours a day, and you have 2 to 5-year-old children, I can posit without any fear of being wrong that you are stewarding the wrong thing. You are not in your assignment, you're just in your ability. And the next thing is, am I expanding capacity to obey? Because obedience, right, is the point of purpose and assignment. If we call ourselves Christ followers, if you do, then you know that what you do and when you do it matters, because God's will is also God's timing. And I'm going to just throw this in here. When the children of Israel were thirsty in the desert and there was no food, God told Moses to strike the rock. But then it happened again. And the second time it happened, God told Moses to what? Speak to the rock. And even though God did for Moses what he wanted to be done in that season, they got water. Moses lost his capacity to enter the promised land because he was not obedient. So what you're doing in your season matters. Good evening, Miss Sophia. And I'll just let you guys know, Facebook is doing a new thing that I cannot see comments on my personal page. So if you are watching on my personal page, go watch on the How To Chick, because I cannot see your comments and I want to be able to put them up. I thought I was going to get it fixed last week, and it turns out it's not fixable. This is just something they're doing right now. I don't know why. They won't, it's hard to get them on the phone to get a straight answer out of them. So follow on my business page and I will be able to see your comments, post your comments, respond to you. I am not ignoring you. I just can't see your comments. So the next thing is that when it comes to discerning what your assignment is, you have to look at whether you are walking in obedience by looking at what you've been commanded to steward. If you have a job and the job has very little responsibility, but it is a job that is important to your organization, but instead of doing that job well, you're working a second job, doing DoorDash and writing a book on the side and letting this lapse, that's not being a good steward of that space. It's not representing God well in that space. And I'm not here to tell you to be focused on this little peddling job paying you $20 an hour. But if you're not going to be accountable and steward your time and the work that you have where you are well, it's time to look at pivoting to something different. This is not about, I am not here to judge people and their use of their time. I am simply telling you what you have been given is a good way for you to assess what your assignment is, what you have been given. If it's just something you picked up and God keeps trying to tell you to let it go, yeah, it's time. Pivot, move, do whatever it is you're being called to do. But never expect your capacity to be intended to expand to steward something that is just for your personal edification, right? I want people to see me. I want to make a lot of money. I want to, no, that's not how assignments are given. Your assignment is usually for someone else, first of all. And second of all, it's also for your salvation. So assignments don't usually look like a whole lot of fun, and they don't usually, and I'm not saying they won't be, and I'm not saying they don't, but they don't usually have a lot of immediate payoff. The next thing is start with your stewardship before your expansion. We talked about this last week, Matthew 25:21. Jesus said, if you are faithful over little things, I'll make you ruler over much. God gives you capacity when you maximize what he has entrusted to you, maximize it. Ask yourself, am I leaking? What is the state of that's what we looked at last week. My mental health, my physical health, my emotional health. What is the state of my marriage? How connected am I with my children? Am I mismanaging the time God has given me and the money that God has given me now? Because a lot of people are out here praying to be debt free, praying to have, that $1 million home. And if they allowed their bank statements or their budgets, whatever, they're using to track their expenditures to be examined by a financial analyst, it would be pretty clear that either it's never going to happen or it could have happened 5 years ago, because we are not managing what we have well. So have you mastered what's in front of you? If you were put in a position, are you doing it to the best of your ability? Are you a leader? Not everybody is going to be a rock star at everything, but if you are consistently and diligently giving your best where you are and you feel as though you are, because there are a lot of people who are working really hard on jobs that don't value them. So I don't want to say this to offend people or to trigger people, frankly, who feel devalued and who feel as though where they are not seen and they are not appreciated. Because there are some spaces and some places that you can be that nobody will see you. And usually God is going to move you out of that space. So I don't want to offend people, but I want to say, if you're doing the best that you can, in many cases, we are called to work in jobs and in positions that we don't understand because they don't even fit with our goals. But God does not have you there to earn a paycheck, to get promoted, to move up the corporate ladder. He has you there because you're on assignment. And there have been some places that I have been that I'm like, Lord, why am I here? And then why am I still here? And it's because I had not completed my assignment. I had not come to peace with my assignment. I had not allowed whoever it was I was there for to see my faith and the glory of God through me. So evaluate where you are not stewarding what you have well. Would God look at what you're doing right now and call it faithful? And I say this and I mean this. This is so important when it comes to the things that we consider little. We are skating through life in many cases, and we are not showing up the way God needs us to in the places where it matters the most, in our homes, in our marriages, with our children, with our family members, with our coworkers. We're not showing up. Would God call you faithful? Then this is the place where we get to, okay, it's time to assess. Look for friction where there should be flow. If God told you to do something, he told you to write that book, he told you to take that ministry assignment, he told you to, start this new job or start a business, and you're being obedient, you're stewarding what you have well. You've gone through the first two checklists. Yes, I'm on assignment. Yes, I'm stewarding everything I have with everything that I have. If God assigned you to it and it still feels chaotic, it still feels heavy, it still feels like too much, you have to look at what feels heavy, what is difficult, what is too much, and then look at what area of your capacity is affected. If it is that you're having a really hard time writing your book because you aren't good at time management and you find yourself frittering time away on social media, if it is that God told you to start this business and you find yourself incapable of making the phone calls that are needed to get the relationships, the networking, the speaking engagements that are needed to bring in contracts for your business, look at your capacity. Is that physical capacity? Is it emotional capacity? Is it mental capacity? Because sometimes you're so burned out, you just can't make yourself do anything. It's important to look at what specifically is keeping you in the friction, what specifically is keeping you from moving forward, to determine whether the area in which you need to increase capacity can be identified. In many cases, people just need mentorship. There's a difference between mentorship and sponsorship. I've talked about that. We're not going to hit on that tonight, but they don't have I don't want to say intelligence. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the information to move forward. So they're stuck there. But if you are sure that you know what you're supposed to be doing and you know how to do it, but you're having a hard time doing it just because you can't get going, you don't want to make the phone calls, or you don't feel like you have the support, that's friction. And so you need to ask yourself, what part of my assignment is being delayed because I don't have the discipline, the focus, or the systems to complete it? Where do I feel a guilty piece, right? It's like, you're like, well, I don't have the capacity. I can't do it. So I've made peace with the fact that I'm just not going to do this in this season. That's what I like to call a guilty piece, because I've been at that place for a while, because I am behind on my book that I'm supposed to be writing. And I just asked God, I was like, look, Lord, you see what's going on in my personal life. You see what's going on in my professional life. I don't have the time. And God said, that's how we got here. He said, do you not have the time, or are you not stewarding the time that I've given you? And so is the problem the assignment, or is the problem a lack of preparation, discipline, or capacity? And so then once you've assessed where it is, because for me, my issue was not that I wasn't stewarding my time well. My issue was that I was completely burned out in a lot of areas, and I needed to delegate and get some things off of my plate to give myself a little bit more time and a little bit more margin, because I didn't have any. And for many of us, that's going to be the issue. And when you assess your capacity, you're going to find yourself struggling on the emotional capacity, because you're not handling setbacks well, because you're stressed out and overwhelmed, you're emotionally reactive, or on your mental capacity. Because something about burnout is it's very difficult to stay focused for extended periods of time. I know I also have ADHD, so I know that I have something really huge and important that's due when I start like rage cleaning. And I went through my entire room, got all my clothes put away and bagged to donate. And the whole time I'm doing it, I'm like, I know that there's something else I'm supposed to be doing. And I knew what I was supposed to be doing, right? I have this huge, huge project that's on deadline at work that, I'm working all the time to do, but I'm also supposed to be writing. Instead of doing either of those things, here I am rage cleaning my room. So if you don't have the margin or the bandwidth, if you are burned out, that's a part of the capacity that we're going to talk about increasing next week. So you don't have to worry that you have to be stuck there, and that just means that you're not going to be able to complete your assignment. The next part of examining your capacity is to look at the fruit, not just the effort. Because if you're doing a whole lot of stuff and nothing is working out, you're not making money in this business. You're writing a whole lot of words, but you feel no closer to finishing the book. You've been working and working and working and working at this job, and you're not producing, for lack of a better word. You're not being recognized. Your efforts and your energy is like you're not contributing in a measurable or appreciable way. Effort isn't always a lack of intention, and it's not always a lack of energy. It's oftentimes just a lack of alignment, because if you do not have the focus to understand where your capacity is lacking, right? The Bible says, get knowledge, wisdom is great, but above all things, get understanding. And alignment means knowing what you should be doing, when you should be doing it, and applying that, right? How you should be doing it. Your capacity needs to increase if you have been working diligently, but you're not bearing fruit. Jesus says you'll know them by their fruit. So if you think, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, I'm trying to do this, and nothing's working out, remember Yoda, do or do not. There is no try. So at this point, it's time to ask, what areas of my life are really producing fruit when I show up? Where am I seeing the results of my efforts, even if it's not public? I've been on a weight loss journey now for, I don't know, it's probably been on and off for 5 years, but for the last 2 years, I've been very consistent. And it took probably 7 or 8 months for me to see a difference in my body and the way that I looked. And I was losing weight far more dramatically during that period than I have been in the last 6 months. And yet, in the last 6 months, other people have noticed far more. And I think that's a really interesting point, because sometimes we're evaluating our fruit based on the applause of other people. And it's not about what other people see or say. It's a true evaluation of what you have done, the groundwork that you've laid, right? Cornerstones, foundations are important. There are a lot of people throwing up slap happy houses, builders included, that fall apart at the slightest wind. So when you're evaluating your fruit, you're not thinking, oh, I should be making, $5,000 a month from my side hustle by now. I've been working at it every day for 2. No. Look at your foundation. Foundation is also fruit. Do you have the structure in place? Have you developed systems that help you to move through things? If you're starting a side hustle, it takes a lot of effort. So you need to spend time figuring out how you're going to get things done in your day-to-day life, right? If you have children, if you have a spouse, the foundations matter. And sometimes you have to move a little bit more slowly, and your fruit isn't going to look like the fruit that other people see. It's going to be a tiny sprout, and that's okay. A sprout is still fruit. So I encourage you not to become discouraged at the thought that fruit means that you need to have what it is that you're going to achieve right now. It just means that you're seeing signs that you're on the path. And the next thing is, are you sacrificing your legacy? Impact areas. This goes back to stewardship. Your marriage, your children, your health. There are going to be some people, right, that God gives you spiritual authority over. There are going to be some people that God puts in your life for you to help lead them. Are you sacrificing that for something that just looks fruitful in a season? And this is again, there are people who have to work 2 and 3 jobs to survive. This is not judgment. This is a place to look at. And if you stick with me for the rest of the month, we're going to talk about what to do if you answer yes here, because you don't have to stay there. An increase in capacity is not just physical. You can't get more hours in the day. You can't get a clone to go to one job while you go to the other one, while another clone stays home with your kids and works on your marriage and your family. No, there is one you, and the one you that you have has to go around. That is what capacity is about. So when you're answering this question, be honest. Again, not graded. You don't even have to tell me about it. Are you sacrificing legacy impact areas to look fruitful? And the last thing, and we're done here because this is kind of a heavy week. Submit everything you could do to God to make sure it's a should do. And I know I talked about this under step 1, but this is really the most important thing, because when you are evaluating your capacity, you need your purpose and you need your assignment. And many times we think that we have an assignment because God said something to us in one season, but that is no longer our assignment because our focus has changed. Our decision making put us in a place where it's most important for us to steward a legacy area right now. If you have small children, if you have, a new marriage or a marriage that's on the rocks, it's still important that you steward that. And your capacity can increase to allow you the capacity, the ability to do it and do it well. And so my kids say I have 1,000 favorite scriptures, but one of my favorite scriptures, and I say this all the time, is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understandings. Acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will direct your path. Before you start trying to increase capacity in an area for a purpose or assignment that you think you have, even if it's a good thing, even if it's taking a position at church, even if it's volunteering, even if it's working with children, volunteering at a school, taking a PTO position, signing up to be, signing up to carpool other people's kids, anything. We do things, right? Because we think they need to be done and somebody needs to do it. That doesn't mean that somebody has to be you. Submit every could to the Spirit for a should. And when I say submit it to the Spirit, I don't mean your spirit. I don't mean, oof, child, I should do that, but I don't feel like it. I should do that, but then I would miss my show. Ooh, I should do that, but I just don't want to. No, the Holy Spirit. God, where are you calling me to stretch, increase, or grow in this season? Is this pressure that I'm feeling coming from you? Or is it comparison? Is it guilt? Is it fear? Or is it shame? Am I chasing something right now that you have not called me to deal with, to handle, to carry, to bring to fruition right now in this season? These are questions you have to ask. And your question should always be, Lord, what should I do? Because many of us live our lives on what I like to call the margins. I say you can do anything, but you can't do everything, and you must choose wisely. And when I say that, most of you have heard me say this, God has to do the choosing. Your comparison checklist has to be, what should I be doing right now? And so when you look at your focus areas and you see the places where your capacity is very low, and then you look at what you think your assignments are in this season and how it's being affected, your question should be, Lord, you've given me this ability. Should I increase my capacity on this ability, on this talent, on this assignment in this season? Should I? Because I know I could. I could focus everything that I have on work right now. Should I? Is this based on your will for my life? Is this your will for this season? Because it may be God's will, just not for this season. And if something feels urgent, it feels super important, but it's not something that bears fruit in a way that is measurable in your life, that's a good reason to ask God, is this something I'm supposed to be building right now? If something feels hard, but it feels necessary, you feel a pressing in your spirit that, Lord, I know this is you. And I've prayed. I've been like, Lord, can you close this door? I actually prayed about something a couple of years ago. I knew somebody was going to ask me to do something. I could just tell by the way they were speaking. I said, Lord, if it's your will that I do this thing, let them ask me. But if it's not, do not let them ask me. They never ask me. As a matter of fact, for the first time, they asked me this year. They had never asked me before. And I'm submitting that to God because I don't want anything else. But if it's just something that's going to produce glory for you, I call it applause builder, something, getting a new certificate, buying a new car, buying a new house. The question is, do I need to increase my capacity for this, Lord? Is this part of my assignment right now or not? If it produces eternal fruit and it's hard and it seems annoyingly hard and irritating, it's probably assignment, but still ask. If it looks good on paper and if it's easy to get, or if it's going to even require some sacrifice, but sacrifice you're willing to make very easy, please ask. Because there is a way that seems right to a man, but the ends thereof are the ways of death. And the last way that you will always know whether the purpose or assignment or project or plan that you're chasing is something in which you need to increase your capacity to complete is you feel convicted, you feel guilt, you feel stress when you are not working on it, when you are not doing it. And I'm not talking about shame. I'm talking about, you're supposed to be doing it deep down. You know it, you feel it. That is a sign that this is an area in which your capacity needs to increase. So for this week, and we're at time, I told you guys this month is going to be a very teachy month, but this is a really necessary thing. Write down 1 or 2, if you have 2 areas of purpose and assignment that you believe you have in this season, and then look at the way that your capacity is affecting it. Look at whether it's based on divine assignment. Pray about it. Look at what areas of it feel hard and what part of your capacity is affecting your ability to do it well. And then look at whether you have been bearing fruit. I don't know how long you've been on assignment. I don't know how long you've been called to do something very specific. I don't know whether you've just been ignoring those nigglings because you don't feel like you have capacity at all. That doesn't matter. We're going to evaluate it in this framework. And we're going to come back next week to talk about specifically how to go about strategically increasing capacity in the areas of your assignment. All right. I know this has been a lot. I did warn you. It is available for replay on both my business page, The How To Chick on Facebook, and on YouTube at The How To Chick. I do want to remind you guys, I cannot see your comments right now on my personal Facebook. So if you're watching there, please, please, please watch on my business Facebook because I can see your comments there and I can respond to them, address them. This is supposed to be more of an interactive space, but I know it's very late and I catch a lot of people at or after bedtime, and that's completely fine. I do respond to DMs and comments, and people do email me, and that's also fine. I will just let you know that next week when we come back, I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. And I want to hear from you because I want to talk about the different places where we either thought we were purposed to operate on, or on assignment, and where we were convicted that we were not supposed to operate and be on assignment. Because if you're doing this assignment right, some of you guys are going to have a really insightful week. You're going to recognize that some things that you thought should be a goal right now aren't your purpose. You're going to recognize that some things you've been putting off for a later season because it's not convenient right now are your assignment right now. I want to hear from you, and I want to see you have the breakthroughs that I've been having in my personal capacity, in my professional capacity, and in my spiritual capacity. And that's what we're doing this month. Evaluate where your focus needs to be based on your assignment. And I will see you next week where we're going to talk about strategic capacity increase. Have a wonderful evening. Remember, you can do anything, but you cannot do everything. Choose wisely. Good night.